The story of a genius boy, Good Will Hunting. The story begins at the prestigious American college, MIT. We see Professor Gerald Lambeau taking a math class. After the lecture, he tells the students that he will write a very difficult math problem on the chalkboard outside. He announces that if anyone solves it, their name will be written in golden letters at the college. He encourages them by saying that some of his former students had solved such problems in the past and are now at the highest positions in their fields. Since the problem was extremely difficult, the professor gave them until the end of the semester to solve it. After the lecture, we see a man named Will Hunting, who works there as a janitor. He notices the math problem written by the professor. Later, Will goes home and begins solving the problem on his bathroom mirror. The next day, when the college is empty, he picks up a piece of chalk and writes the answer to the problem. This was a massive achievement because he had solved it in just one day. Apart from his work, Will spends all his time loitering with his friends. One day, while watching a baseball match, he sees a boy who used to bully him in school. Seeing him makes Will furious. He approaches the boy with his friends and starts a fight. Eventually, Will beats the boy severely. To prevent the situation from escalating, his friends try to stop him, but by then, the police arrive. When an officer tries to intervene, Will attacks the policeman as well, leading to his arrest. On the other hand, Professor Gerald discovers that the math problem he wrote has been solved. He immediately goes to check and sees that someone has indeed solved it perfectly. He asks his brightest students, "Is this the work of any of you?" When they deny it, the professor is stunned. The professor's next class is packed. Everyone wants to know who this unique math genius is. The professor asks whoever solved it to come forward so he can reward them. However, no one steps up. So the professor tells the students that he is writing another math problem, one that took him 2 years to solve. Meanwhile, Will has just been released from jail. He finishes his janitorial work and immediately starts solving the second problem. At that moment, Gerald walks out of his office and catches Will writing on the board. Thinking Will is just scribbling nonsense, he tries to stop him. Seeing the professor coming toward him, Will runs away. Later, when the professor returns, he realizes that Will has actually solved the problem, the same one that took him 2 years. Now he knows who the hidden math genius is. After work, Will meets his friends and goes to a bar for drinks. Seeing some beautiful girls there, Will's friend Chucky approaches them and starts flirting. To impress them, Chucky lies and says he studies at MIT. Just then, a man interrupts and asks, "Which class are you in?" Chucky says, "History." The man realizes Chucky is lying and begins to humiliate him, intentionally asking difficult questions about history topics. Poor Chucky doesn't know the answers and remains silent. Seeing this, Will steps in for his friend and starts debating the man. Will never forgets anything he reads. His knowledge and articulate way of speaking are so sharp that he completely silences the man. After this, the man leaves in frustration. Later, one of the girls named Skylar approaches Will and gives him her phone number. Having seen his intelligence, Skylar has started to like him. Professor Gerald was searching for the janitor who solved his difficult problems. After searching, he finds Will's contact information, which leads him straight to Will's court hearing. Will is facing charges for assaulting a police officer. The judge notes that Will already has a record of theft and assault and states that he cannot ignore the scuffle with the police. Ultimately, the judge sends him to jail, setting bail at $50,000. In jail, he is visited by Professor Gerald, who has a deal for him. The professor says, "I have spoken to the judge, and I am willing to get you released. But you must agree to 2 conditions. 1. You will attend math classes with me. 2. You must undergo counseling, meaning psychological treatment." Will starts laughing at this, but he doesn't want to stay in jail either. Having no other choice, he accepts all the conditions. Soon, he begins his math classes with Professor Gerald, who is astonished by Will's brilliant mind. According to the second condition, he has to receive counseling from a therapist. However, Will refuses to open up to them and instead starts mocking them. He would read the therapist's books the day before and then humiliate them the next day. Seeing no other way, Professor Gerald asks his old friend, Sean McGuire, for help, who now teaches psychology. Initially, Sean refuses, but when Gerald explains that the boy is very special and will ruin his life if he doesn't find the right path, Sean agrees to meet Will. Just as he did with his previous therapists, Will reads Sean's book and begins mocking him accordingly. But Sean remains patient and talks to Will in a very casual manner. Suddenly, Will's eyes fall upon a painting made by Sean. Based on that painting and some art books, Will starts making insulting remarks about Sean's personal life. Sean still ignores it, but then Will brings Sean's deceased wife into the conversation. At the mention of his wife, Sean gets angry. Will realizes that Sean's weakness is his wife, so he mentions her repeatedly. He asks, "Why isn't your wife here? Did she cheat and run away with someone else?" Hearing this, Sean completely loses his cool and grabs Will by the throat. He warns Will never to disrespect his wife again. At that moment, Will says, "Time's up." Sean lets go of him, and Will walks out thinking he has defeated yet another therapist. Seeing Sean's mood, Professor Gerald assumes he won't agree to more sessions. But Sean says yes. "I will counsel him. Bring him to me every week starting next week." Love for Skylar. After counseling, Will goes on a date with Skylar. On the date, Will learns that Skylar comes from a very wealthy family and is currently studying at Harvard. They both have a wonderful time together. When Will goes to meet Sean the following week, Sean takes him to a park and talks to him. He tells Will, "I thought a lot about what you said. In the end, I realized you are just a kid who doesn't even know what he's talking about. You are disrespectful. I understand you don't want to talk. Perhaps there is a fear inside you. But remember one thing. Someday you will have to speak, or else you will lose all the good things in life." The next day, Will goes to work as a laborer with his friend Chucky. He calls Skylar but is afraid to talk. In his third therapy session with Sean, Will doesn't say a single word, and neither does Sean. Both remain silent for an entire hour. The fourth session starts the same way. But then, Will tells Sean a joke. Taking this as a hint that Will now wants to talk, Sean asks him if he has a girlfriend. Will tells him about Skylar, how their first date was great, but now they aren't communicating. Will says, "I feel Skylar is too good for me, and if I keep seeing her, everything will get ruined. Sooner or later, she will realize I'm not good enough for her." Sean explains to him, "No one is better than anyone else. Everyone has good things and bad things, but the important thing is whether that person is right for you or not." Explaining further, Sean tells him about his wife. "She was a wonderful person. I loved her very much." Will and Sean both start laughing openly. At this moment, they grow closer, and Will begins to feel a bit comfortable around Sean. Separation from Skylar and fear of a job. Taking Sean's advice, Will goes to Skylar's college and asks her to go out again. Skylar says she wants to go out, but has a very difficult problem to solve that could take several days. Will asks to see the problem. Upon seeing it, he writes the answer on a napkin in the blink of an eye. After this, Will says, "Now you have no excuse. Come with me." During their second date, Skylar asks Will about his family, and Will lies, saying he has 12 brothers. Skylar is suspicious and asks him to repeat the names. Since Will is a genius, he repeats the names in the exact same sequence. In his next therapy session, Will meets Sean and asks, "Do you ever regret meeting your wife? Because after she died, you must have become very lonely." Sean tells him he never regretted meeting her, even if she was in my life for only a few years. Those years were the most beautiful. Later, Skylar tells Will, "Why don't you introduce me to your friends and family?" Will had still kept the lies about his life going. One night, while talking about their lives, Skylar asks Will, "Will you come to California with me?" Will starts to panic and says he cannot go with her. "My whole life is here." Skylar asks him, "You love me, I know it, so why are you so afraid to come with me? And you never tell me the truth." She also reveals, "I know you lied. You don't have 12 brothers." Upon this lie being exposed, Will loses his temper. He says, "What do you want to know about me? I'm an orphan. I've spent most of my life drifting from one foster home to another. The family I was placed with as a child used to beat me. They beat me like a dog." Skylar starts crying and tells Will, "It's okay, I am with you. I will stay with you no matter what happens." But Will pushes her away and says, "I don't need anyone's help." Will was afraid that if he let someone get close, and then that person left him, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Skylar cries and says, "I love you so much. I will never leave you." But Will lies and says, "I don't love you," and walks away. Facing the truth and freedom, after much persuasion from Professor Gerald, Will finally agrees to a job interview. However, Will has no interest in such jobs. Therefore, he sends his friend Chucky to the interview in his place. In a therapy session, Sean asks Will what he wants to do with his life. Will jokingly replies, "I want to herd sheep and goats." Sean tells him to leave his office. "If you don't want to answer honestly, then go." At this, Will gets angry and starts shouting at Sean. Sean asks again what he wants to do with his life. Will remains silent again. Sean tells him, "Get out of here. Go." The next day, while talking to Chucky, Will says he isn't going to take any job, and now even Skylar is gone. "Both of us brothers will just work construction here comfortably." Hearing this, Chucky speaks from his heart. He tells Will, "Look, 10 years from now, I'll still be here. But if you are still here 10 years from now, I will be very sad. I have only one dream. Every morning when I go to your house to pick you up, my heart wishes that for once you aren't there, that you're out doing something better with your life." Sean has a file today containing photos of Will's body showing the scars from his stepfather's beatings. Sean stands in front of Will and says, "Whatever happened to you, son, it was not your fault." Will agrees, but Sean keeps repeating, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault, son." Eventually, Will says, "I know," but Sean continues to say, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Accept it." Hearing this, tears well up in Will's eyes. He pushes Sean, but Sean repeats again that whatever happened was not his fault. Finally, Will breaks down. He hugs Sean and starts crying loudly. Now, he is ready to leave his past pain behind and move forward. He says he will take one of the jobs Professor Gerald prepared for him. With this, his last therapy session ends. On his 21st birthday, his friends get together and give him a car. Will is very happy with this gift. New destination. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald goes to Sean and apologizes for calling him a failure. The two friends reunite, and Sean mentions he is going on a world tour. While Sean is packing his things, Will arrives outside his house in the car. Will goes to the door and leaves a letter in Sean's mailbox, then drives away. At the same time, Chucky goes to Will's house to take him to work. He knocks on the door, but there is no answer. He peeks through the window and sees that Will is not home. Chucky smiles, realizing that Will has finally decided what to do with his life. Sean also finds the letter left by Will. In the letter, Will writes that he is not taking the job. He is going to California to meet Skylar. Reading this, Sean smiles and goes back inside. This is where the movie ends.